We hack the code and flip the tag. Where cliches come to retire. Drop that beat, turn down to fire. Say what's real, make fears take a seat. Unconventional wisdom, dancing on your feet. Hey.
Hello, and welcome to Unconventional Wisdom About Conventional Wisdom. I'm your host, Miller-Hershon. I am here today with Alec Broadfoot of VisionSpark, and we're going to have a great conversation. All right, so let me tell you a little bit before we go to his random question, which I'm super excited about today, just FYI. Alec leads VisionSpark, and it's a consulting firm that has successfully completed over two, and I just love this phrase, number 2 leader searches for entrepreneurial companies, many of whom run EOS, which is Entrepreneur Operating System, and dozens of searches for other key team members with a 98 placement rate. VisionSpark is recognized in the 2023, 2024, 2025 Inc. 5000 list as one of the fastest growing companies in the country. And Alec is the author of the Amazon #1 best-selling book, Hire Your Right number 2 Leader. Welcome.
It's great to be here, Kim.
Good. All right. So your random question for today is this. You are scheduled to give a talk at a conference, but they randomly booked you at a different conference than your area of expertise, and you've got to get up and wing expertise in something, and it cannot be work or coaching related. What are you going to talk about?
What a good question. I'm going to talk about what's it like playing doubles tennis and how is it compared to...
Oh, I love that. Okay. All right, I'm digging that. So, and do you play, because I know this is almost like blasphemy. Do you play pickleball?
I do play a little pickleball, but
Oh, you do? Okay, because usually it's like, don't insult me, right? Because you're a tennis player, right?
yeah, I used to be that way, but I finally gave in, and it's good social to play with friends, and so yeah, I enjoy it. I do love tennis a lot more though, but
Yeah.
pickleball's a fun sport. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I did play. I was never a great tennis player. I would say I was not a terrible tennis player, right? US, if anybody knows T rankings, I was like a 3.5.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, so not bad, right?
Mhm.
But these days, I am a Zumba lover. And so I've kind of made the decision that I love Zumba so much that I'm not really willing to play pickleball because there's a very good chance that I will hurt myself. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to have to give up dance to do pickleball. So I don't know. And just by the way, if I have to give a random talk on something, I'm actually fortunate because I'm a big hobby person, right? So I have lots and lots of hobbies. But I think probably I would give a talk on how you can express your creativity through cooking unexpected things.
Love it.
So one of my specialties, and everybody's like, oh my God, I didn't even know you could make that. I love to make homemade marshmallows. And the thing is, listen, Alec, I don't even like packaged marshmallows, right? You would not ever find me eating that as a treat. Homemade marshmallows are like in a whole other world of deliciousness. And then what I like to do is I like to make homemade graham crackers, have guests over, and then make s'mores.
I'm sure they're delicious.
That is elevated, let me tell you. Yeah. Okay. All right. Very fun. All right. So let's get into our topic here around your story and your kind of rise, because VisionSpark is a big company, right? Relative to quote unquote this small business world.
Mhm.
You've grown it a lot, right?
Yeah, I think it's still relatively small. We're pretty boutique. We have about 16 or so employees.
But I think for a recruiting company that specializes in one thing, right? You don't have divisions that do a whole bunch of different things. I'm giving you a lot of credit here for that. All right. When you were either a youngster or you had your first job, what conventional business wisdom that you follow early on, thinking, oh, this is what's going to make me successful, that after a while are like, yeah, no, that's not right for me?
That's a good question. I think it was just really try to be strong in my weaknesses, right? Try to be all things to all people and work on my weaknesses. And I learned that was not a good thing, right? If you work on your weaknesses, you just have stronger weaknesses. But if you work on your strengths, you can actually make a difference. And that's why we're on this earth, is because of the strengths and the way we were created. We can accomplish a lot more if we focus on our strengths.
Oh, that is
Mhm.
such a good insight,
Mhm.
right? So I do a lot of coaching on time management and productivity,
Mhm.
right? And this is a place where that particular conversation seems to be incredibly prevalent, right? So
Mhm.
here's how the conversation goes. The conversation goes, somebody comes to me and says, I want to work on time management. Tell me about that. Oh my God, let me tell you all the ways in which I procrastinate, all the ways I'm unproductive, right?
Mhm.
On and on, right? And 100%. But here is, I think, the question that most people don't ask themselves, right? Yes, do you need to identify where you want to be more productive? Here's the question that I think most people don't ask, which is, so what do you do when things go well? What does that process look like? Because what happens is those typically are the internal things that we don't give a whole lot of attention to because we don't struggle with them. We're just naturally good at them. I don't know what process I use. I just get stuff done, right? But here's the thing, if you want to solve a productivity problem, why do you need an external solution? You get stuff done. So figure out what that process is and then use that process to help you with the other things. Or more like what you were saying is hire somebody else to do that stuff. So you're working on your higher value, right? But you got to get there, right? You got to get to the point where you can do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Although, would you agree? I think this is really such an exciting time to be in business, to be an adult, to really be alive, right? I know that there's a lot of not great things happening in the world right now, but in terms of the kinds of resources that are available to smaller businesses, right? I don't think we've ever lived in a time where you can accomplish so much and have so much access, right? So the excuse that I can't afford it is like, can you afford not to? Right? Is maybe a better question.
Yeah. We see that all the time too with when it comes to hiring. We engage with clients that they want to hire a really key individual. They sometimes will struggle with that compensation decision. And so they'll often give kind of a number. We usually guide them and tell them what it needs to take. But they'll give us a number, and then I'll say, how much more would you pay for an A player? Someone that's just a superstar that's going to kill it. It's going to get twice as much done, be twice as productive, and they usually say 10 to 20% more,
Wow.
right? So why not offer it at 10 to 20% more and get that A player?
And then I think because if you look at it just as an expense, then you're always going to have resistance to that, right? If you look at it as what is the opportunity? What opportunities does that then give me in my business, right? The ROI is nary relative to that expense, right? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And an A player will pay for themselves. There's an expression that A players are free. It's actually, they're more than free, right? You're going to get your money back within 6 months. They'll
Right.
pay for themselves 4, 5, 6, 7 times over.
Yeah. Oh, love
Mhm.
that example. Okay. So you've been running this business for a long time. You are clearly Inc. 5,000. You're moving up. You're clearly successful. What's one thing that people assume you've got all figured out that underneath it all you're like, oh no, I don't.
It's besides a messy desk, I'm someone that will struggle with time management myself. Even though I have systems and I have an assistant, I will struggle with managing my time. And there are days that I pack too much in and the work piles up after those meeting days, and then you're trying to get that done. I still struggle with time management.
Yeah. More responsibility comes more demands on your
Mhm.
time, right? So
Yeah.
that makes sense to me. I think okay, so I don't know if this is helpful or not. I'm putting my coaching hat on just for a second here. All right, I have some very strong feelings about the desk situation. Okay, so you can buy it, you can not buy it. But here is my stance. Oh, I guess I never swear on the podcast, so I guess I'm not going to swear, but you can insert your own swear words. Who the heck cares? Right? Your mother does not run the company. You run the company. Now, I think if you're in a shared office space, there needs to be some amount of respect for other people. But this idea, it makes me crazy. This idea that everybody has to have no clutter, a totally cleared off desk in order to be productive, in order to be successful, right? In order, fill in the blank. I think it's baloney. Okay, I'm done. I mean, that is conventional wisdom that I think we need to really question. I really do. One of the things that's interesting, Alec, I have a book coming out in January, and it's a lot about these things. In fact, I have an entire chapter on the whole death situation. I kid you not. And I think really exploring where does that come from, right? And what do we think it means to have a clean desk or a messy desk? And I think there's a lot of societal pressure around those things. Here's where I come down on it. There are people like my mother was one of those people who she needed her surfaces pristine or she just couldn't function, right? Everything had to be in its place and it really had to be clutter free. And that is what freed her mind. If it doesn't impede your ability to do your work, if you can, for the most part, find what you need, here's my rule of thumb. If you're spending over 5 minutes looking for your stuff, it's probably time to clean your desk off. Other than that, I don't think it's a problem. And here is the thing, hire somebody to clean it for you if you don't want to clean it. Okay. I don't know if that frees you, it doesn't free you, but I got some really strong opinions about it.
Yeah, that's good
Okay.
counsel.
All right. So, what's your biggest leadership or management challenge right now?
Right now, it actually has to do because we're growing, it's selecting the right people in the hiring process. So we have some positions available in our company, sales positions. We call them client strategists. And we also have some search consultant positions that actually help guide the client and all about creating a raving fan and helping them hire a key employee. So those are the biggest challenges right now. So we have people that are working super hard and have a lot on their plate, and we need to create some capacity for them. So we do that for a living, and it's one of those things where you don't want to hire just because you have an opening. You want to hire the right person, and
Right.
so we will take our time to making sure we hire the right person that's going to fit with our company long term. So that's our biggest challenge right now. And I would say, secondly, is to develop predictable income. So as a search firm,
Yeah.
it's you kind of eat what you kill, and it's very little recurring revenue.
Right.
We're grateful because about half of our revenue does come from current clients that come back, and so we know we're doing a great job when they come back.
Absolutely. And what I love about you sharing your first challenge is that you might be maybe the victim of being too much of an expert,
Mhm.
right? You just know all the issues of hiring the wrong person. And also, too, just because you're helping somebody else hire does not mean that it's easier for you to do it internally, right?
Right.
I'm sitting here going, oh, isn't that ironic? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all struggle with employees and people issues and hiring the right people. And that's why we're in business. We help our clients with that. But that doesn't mean that we are immune from that. And we do have an incredible team, and we are really good at hiring the right people. But as we grow, we have to do that ourselves.
Yeah. We call those happy problems,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Yeah. And then the problem around, yeah, predictable income. And I think recruiting firms, it's very typical of your industry to have those issues. And listen, if there was an easy answer to that one, somebody would already have figured that one out.
Mhm.
But it's interesting to grapple with probably a
Mhm.
little bit, but sort of interesting. And then there's a lot of mouths to feed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, what is one unconventional habit or mindset shift that's helped you grow the business?
Yeah, I would say something that's very unconventional is that we grew the business without debt. That is contrary to most business expertise. And so we've bootstrapped it all. We were able to grow it, and we've had periods of really strong growth, but we did it all without debt.
Yeah, that's amazing. And to continue to grow, like you said, you're still hiring. It's so interesting, right? The juxtaposition between more predictable income on the one
Mhm.
hand, growth on the other hand. I think those are really interesting sort of juxtaposition, right?
Mhm.
And then to do it all with no debt is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. Do you have partners or do you own?
I'm the sole owner. I did have a partner for the first 5, 6 years of the business, and I bought him out. And so, yeah, I don't have an equity. I've not gotten equity either without debt or an equity partner. It's all been self-financed.
Right. So for you as the leader, what are you most proud of in how you've grown this company?
I'm really proud of number one, the team we have. So we just have an amazing team. They all have tremendous character, have our core values. So we have a tremendous culture here. So that's number one. Number two is I'm really just proud of the reputation that we have. A lot of recruiters, search firms don't have great reputation. We're in that same category as lawyers and used car salesmen. And we are seen as a partner, as a consultant, and our clients come back to us and they're like, man, that greater number two leader that you hired for us 6 years ago, they had a great run and they moved on, and we want you to do the same thing again. Or, hey, we're ready for that VP of sales and marketing position. So that's something that is a testament. And then we have a great NPS score. So we're pretty intentional about getting those scores on what
Just
they.
in case somebody in the audience, so net promoter score,
Mhm.
but explain a little bit what that means to have
Yeah,
a
so
high
it's
score.
basically one question that you send to a client, and it's on a scale of 1 to 10, and it's how likely would you recommend insert your company there, VisionSpark, to a friend or family. It's calculated based on it. So you really want nines and tens. Nines and tens increase your score. Eight is neutral, and then anything else is a detractor. So that's the net promoter score. And there's probably large companies that you're on hold with all the time. They don't have a very good net promoter score, right? You go to the Four Seasons or Ritz-Carlton, they have high net promoter scores. And so it's a great way to measure your company for your clients. And in the end, it's all about having raving fans.
And so
Mhm.
that's what I was going to say is that the reason they ask that is not how satisfied are you with the service, but the idea is that if you're going to recommend Vision Spark to your friend, colleague, brother, sister,
Mhm.
whomever, right? That shows a level of trust that even goes beyond that raving fan category, which goes beyond this worked for me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, actually, when big companies ask me that question, it's always a hard question to answer because I typically have very mixed feelings.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then the decision to buy out the partner, was that a hard decision for you or was it the natural progression? What do you think?
That's a good question. A lot of partnerships don't work out because the partners don't get along, and we actually got along really well. And it was something that I think when we started implementing EOS, we started realizing that we had different visions of what
Mm,
we wanted our company to do. It became an issue of who should be visionary, who should be integrator, but also deeper down, it was what's the end game? What's the vision? And my partner, a great man, but he really wanted to do very deep consulting work with a select few clients. And I wanted to help entrepreneurial companies all over the United States help them hire key leaders. I want to grow and lots of clients and help them and also offer them our assessments and do some consulting. But he really wanted to be an individual contributor, a consultant that would spend 10, 20 hours a week with a client for a long-term basis. And so we didn't realize that until toward the end of the process. And I asked him, I said, is this why we're parting ways? He's like, yeah, that's exactly it. You're absolutely right. I want to be a consultant to a couple of clients and do a lot of work for them and go deep and really help them with their culture and ethos. And I wanted to help as many entrepreneurs as possible. So, yeah.
right. And I think what you're really pointing out here is not a question of right or wrong, right? It's
Hmm.
two different visions. So it just made sense, right? Not that
Hmm.
those are hard decisions, especially if you've spent time putting something together and growing something. But I think it's important for the listening audience to understand that every sort of broken partnership is not because somebody was not a good partner or didn't do the work, right? We hear that all the time, right? I'm doing all the work and this person is getting half the profits, right? Or whatever the other things are. At the end of the day, if the visions don't match, it doesn't actually make sense,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I've had a couple of partners in the past as well in my coaching business, both of which I parted on friendly terms, but neither of which were really the right fit. I want support, I want camaraderie, right? I want somebody else to help make decisions with. And in a lot of ways, it was abdicating in a way that I did not need to. Like I am perfectly capable of making decisions, right? You know what's really interesting? I wonder if this resonates with you. I just had a meeting with my team and we had a project that I'd put on the table probably 2 or 3 months ago, right? That's got a deadline that right now is about a month away, right? And I put it on the table and then I was really unclear as to what I wanted to do. And so it just sat there and sat there. And
Mhm.
I finally was like, oh my God, this is a month away. We need to make some decisions and we need to get in motion around this. And all of a sudden, I was just able to, okay, we're going to do this, right? Get input, make some decisions. And at the end, I said to my team, I'm like, listen, I stalled on this, taking 100% responsibility for that. If this ever happens again, where my not making a decision affects your life because now I've put a shorter time frame on something, you need to
Mhm.
nudge me, right? You need to say, Kim, I got stuff to do. You need to make a decision on this, right? And I think it's a really interesting thing because it's not their responsibility. It was 100% my responsibility. But in the end, I felt badly because, listen, they still have a month to do it. It's doable in a month, but it would have been easier to do in 2 months, right? So I think it's an interesting leadership dilemma, right? I don't know. What do you think? Does that resonate with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm just like, I wanted to make it really clear this is not your fault or your responsibility on the one hand. On the other hand, if I'm doing something that is going to make your life harder, you need to speak
Mhm.
up. Anyways, yeah. I think those are sometimes as a leader, those are really
Mhm.
tricky, right? Those are tricky things. So, All right. I got one last question for you. So it's a two-parter. So you could say maybe I have two last questions for you. I don't know. It depends on how you count. So, about imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
Okay. So, imposter syndrome. And here's the really interesting thing, it can just be a moment. Something happens and you have that contraction or you have that moment of self doubt, right? That moment of lack of confidence. The question is, in this iteration of Alec, if it's going to come up for you, what is the situation where it's going to come up? Number two is, what do you do about it?
Yeah, it comes up often as whenever I have to speak. And so whether it's a keynote, a workshop, maybe in front of my employees, but there's that self-confidence issue, right? I'm not an amazing speaker and you deal with this and how am I going to get this going and how's it going to get kicked off? And you have that self-confidence issue. And so that's something I struggle with. So it's usually the days leading up to it, procrastination, minute inspiration, all of that going on. But it's definitely there. And it goes away. Usually, what I do is I say, okay, now remember the last talk you gave and how much people loved it. Remember all the talks that you've given and how much value you create and how you've impacted lives and helped decisions. So I try to remember the outcome of the previous talks, and that helps me overcome that. And
Yeah.
so I do that. I usually share also my why story. Why do I do what I do? And that usually it's not something that I naturally want to do, but it allows the audience to get to know me a little bit, my heart. And I'm just not here trying to make a buck. I've been my own customer and how our hiring system really has helped me and then has helped others. So those are the two. One is
Uh-huh.
when I'm speaking, but I try to remember how the audience felt once the last talk I gave.
Right. One of the things that even I, who is like a natural talker, but interestingly enough, that does not necessarily make you a good speaker, right?
Mhm.
Because if all you do is just talk and you're not succinct and you don't know what your
Mhm.
points are and you get lost in your own story, it's also ineffective,
Mhm.
right? One thing, though, which is maybe what you're saying, that I have learned is I have to have my beginning memorized so that when I walk out there, I know where I'm going to start. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
Alec, you know the next question I'm going to ask you because you opened the door. I'm just walking through it. Tell us your why story.
So my why story, yeah, it's about 20 years ago. I had a mailing and printing company, and we were just killing it from all business sides. We were nominated for Ernst & Young Entrepreneurs of the Year. We were super profitable, growing. We had some of our competitors were struggling with sales. We were just killing it, and we had amazing service. We would pick up mail from large companies like Chase and all the big hospitals in Columbus. But I realized we couldn't hire. We were actually firing 7 out of 10 people. And so we offered above market salary, attracted great candidate pool. And so I reached out to a mentor of mine and I said, what am I doing wrong? An MBA, successful business person. I thought I knew everything, but I really didn't know how to hire. And he said, are you using any sort of data or science or assessments? And I said, no. He's like, you got to. So we started using an assessment tool. And instead of us every 7 out of 10 people, we were retaining 7 out of 10 people. And it was working tremendously. And I really thought this assessment tool was working. At that time, I needed an executive assistant. And this one woman came in, interviewed, and I didn't know how to interview back then. I know how to interview now, but back then I didn't know how to interview. But she knocked it out of the ballpark. I said, the next step in the process is I'm going to have you take this assessment. And the results of that assessment came back, and they were horrible, outright horrible. And it said that she was going to be a slow learner, completely disorganized, insecure. It said she was going to be a social butterfly, make a lot of mistakes and errors. And so I'm like, this can't be accurate. She interviewed so well. I'm going to check her references. Meanwhile, I don't know how to ask good reference questions at the time. I do now. And she got good reviews. So we hired her. And everything the assessment said was true. So within 3 weeks, we fired her. She made a mistake, social butterfly, insecure, super disorganized, no detail. And so I said, never again. So that was the beginning. That's what I needed to start thinking about my future vision. And so I was involved with a CEO peer group at the time, and I saw them making the same mistakes. I sold my interest in that business, and I decided to start helping consulting entrepreneurs to improve their cash flow. And what I saw amongst these small to mid-sized leaders was that they really had bad leadership team members, that the issue was not just a cash flow issue. The issue was who was leading their teams. And so in 2012, I decided to start VisionSpark with the passion to help entrepreneurial companies find and hire great leaders using science and data and a process.
Yeah, so interesting, right? And clearly it works, right?
Mhm.
So there you go. Thank you for sharing that story. I think it really does help bring understanding to what you do, and love people who use their own experience. I think what's funny, it so resonates with me because there's unconventional wisdom about conventional wisdom. As I often say to people, listen, not that I have any judgment about this, but when I think about what my mission and what my passion is, I'm like, unconventional wisdom just in and of itself is really not my thing, right? I don't have anything against it, but it's not my thing. Because I think if somebody wants to go live in a yurt on a mountaintop and
Mhm.
commune with nature and figure things out, if that works for them, more power to them. Those are not the people that I help, right? So just being unconventional, not my thing. I think what just intrigues me is, how do we become successful, fulfilled? And listen, you get to decide what success looks like, right? Success is not always about money, right?
Mhm.
Success, fulfillment, all those things that you want in your life. Like, how do you do that being authentically who you are?
Mhm.
That's what my passion is, right? It's the we've just been trained for so long to adhere to rules,
Mhm.
right? Or here's my other thing, and then we'll wrap this up. But I think it's really important, which is that oftentimes somebody will give you the answer, and we're always looking for the answer, right? Give me the roadmap to create a successful recruitment agency. Give me the answer to create a successful coaching, right? Give me an answer to how to be the most successful that I can be, right? Tell me to wake up at 5 a.m. Tell me to meditate. Tell me to have a clean desk and be organized and be productive, right? Like all the rules. And then you can find as many people saying, go with the natural flow of your body, right? Like me saying, I don't really care what your desk looks like,
Mhm.
right? So everybody's got the answer. The problem is it's their answer.
Mhm.
You have to actually figure out what your answer is, right?
Mhm.
And that's the thing that's so complex about this, because we can learn from other people's success, right? And we want to learn from other
Mhm.
people's success. It's just that their roadmap is not your roadmap, right? So you
Mhm.
have to really have that exploration of picking and choosing the pieces that work for you and creating the roadmap for yourself.
Yeah, that's really good wisdom.
Yeah. All right, Alec, I don't know what happened today, but I got on my soapbox a couple of times here, which I do not always do, but I did. All right. You have been a fabulous guest. I wish you much success in finding the right team members, in working through these other business problems, and continue to set success to you.
Thank you very much, Kim. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. You have been listening to Unconventional Wisdom about Conventional Wisdom. I'm Kim Miller-Hershon, your host. You've been listening to Alec Broadfoot, and Alec's information will be in the chat. If you want, we can also put the link to your book. So you can pick that up. For me, I would love you to do two things. One is, if this was a great conversation, please subscribe. And we want a high net promoter score. And so share it with somebody else. That was actually 1.5. The second thing I want you to do, please, if you like these conversations, if you want more actionable things to think about and do, subscribe to my newsletter. We put it out once a week. It's got one thing in it, and then it's got an action that you can do. So you're going to move stuff forward. We like moving stuff forward. That's it. All right. Thank you for listening. Go out there and be a better human.
Where cliches come to retire.